Here on the AM show also, we've been speaking to key policy makers. We'll take you now to Parliament, where one of them has been engaging with my colleague, Kweku Asante.
And welcome again to our series of conversations with members of Parliament in this meeting. You know, this is the budget meeting. They met primarily, they looked at other issues, but the key focus was the 2023 budget, which is under conversation. The economic policy and the statement that was read by the minister has since been approved. But today we are having a conversation with Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed. He's a former Trades and Industry Deputy Minister. He's also on the committee currently. He's also on the Public Accounts Committee. We're looking at a number of issues that has happened within this meeting of Parliament and what his views are on those. So, Honourable, thank you for inviting us to your office today.
Thank you for having me.
Honourable, the budget is the key issue for this meeting. I mean, what are your views on some of the measures that have been introduced? Do you sense them as the key measures that will take Ghana out of the current economic conundrum?
Well, first and foremost, I was elected to represent a constituent, and representing the constituents, also representing the people of Ghana, because the 275 members of Parliament, we represent the entire nation called Ghana. And therefore, whatever we do here must be reflective of what their interest is. And that is why we are expected to consult our constituents before taking major decisions, and major decisions such as items that have been identified in the policy statement. In your intro, you said the budget was approved. What we approved was the policy statement. You remember last year, the policy statement's approval wasn't a problem, but certain items in the policy statement was what we had problems with, such as the E-levy. This particular budget, we have approved it. And when I say approved it, you remember we voted against the approval of the budget. Yeah. We voted against it because the Speaker decided to take it on voice vote. And in his estimation, the yeas had it more than the nays. And you remember, he had to take it about 2 times. Maybe the question is that we could have called for division. We didn't do that because we don't have problems with the entire budget. I mean, it would be ridiculous if we say that we have problems with every item in the budget. We have problems with certain items in the budget. So we can approve the policy statement. Mind you, those items are going to be approved or not individually. And some of them, if they are new legal regimes that are being brought, particularly the taxes, they would have to come through bills. You know. So clearly, that was what we did. We have identified some of the items in the budget we have problems with. One, given 80 million Ghana cedis for the purposes of the President's Cathedral, we said we have a problem with it. This is not a Ghana's cathedral. It's the President's Cathedral. It was not in the MPP manifesto. He never told anybody that he was going to put up a cathedral. It was after the elections. He said that he had a pledge with his creator, and therefore, if he won the elections, he was going to provide the creator with a cathedral. And I wonder whether the creator told him that he was interested in a cathedral. If you have made a pledge with your creator and you want to please your creator, you need to improve the living conditions of the people. And for me, the creator will be more pleasing. The reason why we have problems with it also is that, assuming tomorrow, a president wakes up and says that, yes, I made a pledge with Satan, that if he helps me to win the elections, I was going to kill about 100 Ghanaians, and therefore I should be given the opportunity to do so. It's ridiculous. I am very convinced that the Christians in Ghana have the capacity to put up a cathedral. If Christians want to put up a cathedral, and me, who is a Muslim, I want to assist, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. You saw what happened to the Central Mosque at Abu-Baidoo, when it was in a very terrible shape. Pastor Mensah Otabil provided paying for it. Muslims didn't say no, because we all worship one God, and the cohesion that exists among people of faith in Ghana is something that we should all jealously protect and guide. And therefore, if Christians wanted to do that, there's nothing wrong with it. And I believe that there will be several Muslims who will be willing to assist.
But you've always had
I would have no problems.
That the minister was taking money out of contingency vote, not coming to Parliament.
Yes.
Now he's come through.
No, I'll even come to that. How do you build a house of God through fraudulent means? You think that God will be happy with you?
Which fraudulent
The
means
Constitution is very clear that you cannot take money such as that for the purposes of executing a project such as that without getting parliamentary approval. And they knew that what they were doing was illegal. So why would you build a house of God through illegal means? Again, the amount of money is given to the architect. The architect, how complex is it? We've all seen the designs that you spend such millions of dollars for the purposes of an architectural design. I mean, something that I believe that young people, young architects in this country could have done free for people of faith without even taking a dime. Who approved that? With what authority? So these are some of the issues. Another issue we have problem with has to do with the 2.5% increase in VAT. I think that sometimes I ask myself whether President Nanado, sometimes he reminisces over some of the actions he takes.
That was brought by the NDC.
Yes, and I remember I was in Legon. That was my first year. No, I wasn't in Legon then. That was 1995 and it was finally introduced sometime 1996, 1997. By that time, I was at the teacher training college. President Nanado led demonstration. 5 Ghanaians lost their lives, or 5 Ghanaians lost their lives, including a 14-year-old boy. The blood of that boy will be on the hands of this man. And I say this because even when he had the opportunity to rule this country, then he was the Minister for Justice and Attorney General. The family insisted that justice was needed to be done. And they insisted, they went to him, they demanded that there was the need for some investigation. Mind you, they accused the NDC at that time. He did nothing. He had the opportunity to be the president of the Republic of Ghana. He did nothing. How will this man feel that something you opposed, you led demonstration, led to the loss of lives, including an innocent 14-year-old boy? That same thing, mind you, when finally the NDC brought it, they didn't only oppose it in Parliament, they walked out. And the first decision of the NPP government under President Kufuor was that they expanded the tax net. And now this man, this president, with all due respect, is increasing same that he opposed on principle.
What if now he has found the value in the tax?
Principles do not. So are you telling me that he didn't see any need in that tax?
Maybe at the time he thought that he was overburdening Ghanaians. Now it feels like the economy has opened enough to increase it by 2.5%.
Between that time and this time, which of these two periods would you say that Ghanaians are really overburdened with any tax increase?
Well, I was very young at the time.
No, but you read, you saw.
Yeah.
At that time, we didn't have the struggle. The economy was not struggling as it is struggling today. So there can't be any justification with that. We said we are against that particular tax regime. Again, E-levy. When they introduced E-levy, we oppose it. Multimedia oppose E-levy because you conducted a survey. And over 90% of the people of this country says they were against. In fact, who responded to your survey said they were against the E-levy. Central University, the university that made their auditorium available for Dr. Mohammed to engage in the voodoo economics he engaged in, hoodwink everybody into believing that he had the magic wand. Central University conducted a survey, and over 90% of the people who responded said they were against the survey. ISE, the last time I checked, ISE is not an NDC wing. ISE advised the government against the survey. Imani, CDD, almost everybody advised this government. What is ridiculous about the belligerence of this Minister for Finance and this President refusing to heed to reasonable argument and justification for the need to shelve that tax regime. When we had our post-budget workshop, and mind you, every year after the budget is presented, the post-budget workshop, the experts who are brought to take us through, identified by both Parliament and government, because the experts will take us through the policy decisions of government as captured in the policy statement. Now, all the experts who were brought, identified between Parliament and government, they all spoke against the E-levy, including Professor Ali Nacha. So they refused to listen to anybody. Even in this house, in this Parliament, we've had some of our colleagues, I mean, they are so cowardized and they have lost principles, particularly the MPP, some of the MPP members of Parliament. They won't come publicly to state. But I have had evidences that some senior members told me that they went to this minister pleading with him to reduce the percentage, and he refused to listen. Now, you introduce it, And we were told that the reason why they put a cap for those who were eligible to pay the tax was to take care of the poor, was to protect the vulnerable. Where has morality gone?
No, now we are removing the threshold
and now
reducing the rate to 1%.
Hold on, I'm coming. I'm saying that the reason why they put the cap, the threshold of 100 cedis above, was to protect the poor. Your good friend and one of your former employees, the current Minister for Information, went to town with it. The minute all the incompetent communicators of MPP went to town with it, telling Ghanaians that they were so concerned about Ghanaians. And man, you remember the Ajia Qatar, the minister for... Yes. You remember she granted an interview in one of the local radio stations and said that if you are able to do a momo of 200 Ghana cedis, you can't claim to be poor. I mean, that was so insensitive. That was so unrational for a minister of state. You've seen the young ladies cleaning this ministry. And I remember I made the same point on your station. I asked some of them how much they pay them. And they said 400 Ghana cedis a month. Now, some of them are from far distances. Now, assuming that the mother, one of them who said the mother was in Central Region, I mean the parents were in Central Region, she takes 400 Ghana cedis and the mother is not well. And she needs to send 200 Ghana cedis to the mother because the health of the mother will be more important than any other person. Such a person sends 200 Ghana cedis. By the wicked mind of Ajia Qatar, such a lady cannot claim to be poor. That's what it means. So if she takes 200, that's 50% of what she earns at the end of the month. How much is the minimum wage? 14 cedis. Yeah. And then you have a minister of state, because she's so powerful now, she thinks that 200 Ghana cedis you can't claim to be poor. Now, with all these stories, we're protecting the poor. They have decided to reduce it from 1.5 to 1%. And now the protection of the poor is no longer necessary.
Because they think they reduced the rate.
And have they improved the living conditions of the people of this country? Even 0.0% will be a serious burden on the poor. Now you have taken away what they have simply done is that the rich will now be enjoying. Because every tax instrument, you must look at the burden of that tax on your citizens. And that is why the best tax instrument should be progressive, not regressive. This particular tax instrument is regressive. The burden is going to be on the poor. So what this government, what President Nana Addo and Dr. Bawumia are telling you Ghanaians that we don't care about you. You can suffer, we don't care. We said we were protecting you. We are no longer interested in protecting you. That is what it means. And that is why we say we are going to vote against this. We'll do everything possible to ensure that this thing doesn't pass through.
You don't have the numbers. It to be like last year.
When you say we don't have 136. When you say we don't have the numbers, what do you mean?
I mean, you have 136 MPs.
Yes.
The NPP have 137 plus 1 independent.
Some of them are not even there.
If you take out that that's 137.
You see, and that is where I feel so upset about the 90 members of Parliament.
And today you actually you are going to work on that censure motion vote.
Yes.
Listen, they are politicians. They listen to their political party. They look at the political considerations of their actions.
When I started, I said we were elected. In fact, I used myself, and I did that for a reason. I said I was elected to represent the people of Tamale Central, and by extension, I'm representing the people of Ghana, and therefore, whatever action or decision I take here should be reflective of what they want. Those 90 members of Parliament told us that the action they took, demanding the resignation of the Minister for Finance or he being forced to jump, was an action taken after consultation they had with their constituents. They told us that.
Yeah.
They told us that. And I remember I was on a TV station, Joy Prime, with one of the spokespersons, my good friend, Honorable Eugene Ahin. And he made a very famous... Eugene
Boachenju, the MP for
Subin Gold, yeah. Boachenju, yes, Eugene, Honorable Eugene. And he said that he made a very famous statement. He said, in fact, when he wanted to make that statement, he turned to look at the cameras and said, Mr. President, you said it was the NDC members of Parliament who were asking that the Minister for Finance to go. We are now telling you, your own members of Parliament are asking the Minister to go. Where has principles gone? I think principles
the
in
principles
the annals
are so that what they've decided to do is to accept the president's request that allow the Minister of Finance finish the processes regarding the budget and also the IMF.
No, that is not the reason. They changed their minds after they themselves admitted that the businessman met them. And after they, hold on, let me finish. Let me finish.
And the Apia could be told us that.
Please.
When the businessman came, they sacked the businessman.
Hold on. First and foremost, don't you think that you people, journalists, and particular multimedia, you should be interested in finding out who that businessman is?
We're interested. We've been asking
hold on.
majority
not questions. You should go beyond
investigating.
You should go. It is not the majority leader who should investigate. He came and met all of them.
Well, we've done
they
stories where anti-corruption societies have asked the special prosecutor to investigate.
Is he interested? I am saying that the special prosecutor should be interested in this. Who was that businessman? Who sent him? Did he come on his own volition? Was he sent by the government? What was the interest? And what gave that businessman the courage to meet members of parliament, the legislature, and extended monies to them? They admitted he extended some envelopes. I mean, clearly, if this thing had happened under NDC, I'm telling you, this country wouldn't have been the same. You would have had the so-called anti-corruption agencies. You would have had the Kuma and Co. Maybe perhaps their maps are full. They are no longer talking. You would have had the what's the name of that MPP wing? That group. Institute. Oh, the list said about them the better. That group that went and that had a vigil at the Flagstaff House.
Occupy Ghana.
Yes.
Occupy Ghana is not an
MPP. It's an MPP wing.
It's an
MPP. Independent people. Give me a minute. When this government came, they gave the tax, the monies. There were some loans and others went. Were they not the
transaction advisors? Because they are professionals.
Didn't we have transaction lawyers at the Ministry of Finance who could do that? We raised these issues. And at what price? Is it not shameful that those who claimed to be so independent-minded, if NDC had done that with a lawyer who was an NDC person and who was speaking in defense of NDC, Kuma and Co would have gone to town to say that the Minister of Finance has lawyers, the Minister for Justice and Attorney General, they could have handled that. Yet he found it very convenient and comfortable to handle it at such exorbitant rate. That money that was given to them could have been saved if the government had asked the legal department of the Ministry of Finance, who had the capacity to handle it. He could have asked the Minister of Justice and Attorney General to handle it at no cost. Yes, we're very comfortable. I am saying that group is an MPP wing. It's an MPP wing. There is no amount of words you can use because all the principles they stood against under the NDC, they had those principles under the NPP. And that is the point I am making. Why are they not interested? Why is the serious fraud, the special prosecutor not interested? We need to know who that businessman is. What was his interest? Who sent him? The temerity, the courage to even meet members of parliament and extended money. Is it a case that he's been extending monies to them? They changed their position not because they were called to the Flagstaff House. They changed their position because the businessman, they themselves admitted. Nobody was holding a dagger. Nobody was holding a dagger behind them when they admitted that the businessman came. Why are they not willing?
To be very fair, if they are willing to put out that information and say that some businessman came to see us and we asked him to go.
No, they didn't put it out. After members from our side and some journalists said that they got information that a businessman came to meet them. They didn't put it.
They could have denied it.
No.
Because the businessman met them.
They could not deny it because the propensity, the way the information came, there was no way they could. Because so let's get this. They didn't put it out there. So we got the information, including some journalists, and I guess yourself, you got information that a businessman came to meet them. So there was no way they could deny it. Perhaps because they didn't know the extent of information people had. And therefore, the safest way was to admit. One certain, they are not willing, they themselves, to tell us who that businessman is. Why? If you think that you refuse to accept the bribe, if you think that nothing untoward happened, why are you not willing to tell us who that businessman is? So I am saying that they changed their mind. They are so unprincipled. They did that not because the president called them. They did that because that businessman met them. But in any case, didn't they know the consequences of their actions even before the president called them? Mind you, it was not the 90 members of MP's position. Subsequently, the majority leader publicly stated that it was the position of the entire caucus. What has changed? Even after they met
what has changed is that the NPP MPs are not willing to sink their political party to support the NDC in this censure motion. They say that, well, you can go to Kumasi, you can use the flight, you can use the road, and you will all get to Kumasi. You want the finance minister out by a vote of censure. We also want him out, but we are dealing that internally. They don't want to give you that victory. You say that the NDC are the ones who have gotten the minister out by voting for your censure motion.
Remember,
their party has asked them to abstain from the vote. Today, if you go to the floor, you will lose because you don't have the two-third majority required to get the minister out. You call them, they will abstain.
In the first place, the day they held the press conference, I said it was not genuine. You remember? I don't know what I didn't speak to you, but I spoke to somebody and I said it wasn't genuine. And they had problem. You know why I said so? The day before the day they had the press conference, Honorable Haruna Idrisu at Conclave, or in a meeting with the leadership, including Speaker, had indicated to Honorable Chairman Sabonsu that this was the decision we have taken as a caucus, that we're going to move a motion of censure a day before they had the press conference. And in fact, the day we moved the motion, that was the day they also had the press conference. Honorable Haruna indicated publicly on the floor and said that the majority leader is aware that yesterday we indicated to him that we're going to have the censure motion. The conference was not genuine. They did that press conference because we had indicated to them that we were going to move a motion of censure.
NPP MPs will come forward to put that amount of pressure on the minister and the president, not in a genuine show.
They wanted to take the wind out of our sail because they didn't want us, because we were going to have the censure, and they said, look, they could not be moving a motion of censure. So let's hold a press conference and demand that the minister resigns or he's asked to go.